Joining us right now on the phone, the name of the article and the post that he has up right now on Japers Rink, it's called On Flipping the Switch and Running Out of Time. A little bit of statistical background, and the Caps trying to kick it up before game one of round one, and it is getting ever closer. Kevin Klein joining us from Japers Rink. Hey, Kevin.
Hey, John. How you doing?
Pretty good. Just getting geared up for the game here in Ottawa. Going through the article today and reading the post, and there, again, as you guys always do, a lot of charts to look at here. We tweeted it out. We encourage everyone to take a look at that. But first question here, this team has been generating a lot of shot attempts of late. In fact, you could even say pretty close to their season high. But as you talk about in the post, that isn't necessarily good news because of some of the circumstances surrounding that, right?
Yeah. The common terminology for that is score effect, which is just to say if a team gets a lead early in a game or a couple goal lead, they'll take the foot off the pedal, and it tends to be a bit easier to spend more time in the offensive zone and generate more shots and goals, simply because all of a sudden the clock is on the side of the team with the lead, and they're trying to use that. So if you're looking at just the raw data, when you have a team like the Caps who have been playing from behind, it seems like every night for a matter of months now, those shot metrics can be misleading. There is a method to adjust for that, and once you apply that adjustment, you can kind of see that the Caps are actually taking, I guess, meaningful shot attempts at the lowest rate, one of their lowest rates of the year. So that's certainly problematic and something that a lot of research has correlated to the playoff success. That research, I should call out, done by a statistician named Micah Blake McCurdy, and it's something that you would like to see kind of reverse course here as the season winds down and they ramp up for the playoffs.
On the subject of meaningful shot attempts and being able to boost that, tying in with what's going on here in Ottawa, we find out this morning that Jay Beagle no longer wearing a red jersey. He drops down to the third line tonight and skating with Jason Chimera and Marcus Johansson. And the guy who seems to be the elixir for all that ails is Justin Williams, and he moves up tonight to play with Ovechkin and Backstrom. Barry Trotz didn't have a whole lot to say other than saying it was a team matter. It was in the room. It was among the group. But it kind of has the feel to it that the Jay Beagle thing didn't quite give us the spark we were looking for, so Justin Williams is the next logical candidate. Does that potentially help more meaningful shot attempts?
Well, I think it absolutely does, just on account of Justin Williams' incredible ability to keep play in the offensive zone. He's done it his entire career. Everybody who steps on the ice with him spends more time in the offensive zone, and that's all bared out by the statistics. And so you put a guy like that on a line with one of the best playmakers and the NHL's perennial most trigger-happy skater in Alex Ovechkin, and I certainly think that you can expect to see some more shot attempts come out of that line for sure. And this is something that we talked about last week, and it didn't end up happening when Barry Trotz shook up the lines last week, but it was certainly something we talked about. And I will say that I thought that the line shakeups from last week, Jay Beagle to the top line is obviously pretty unorthodox in terms of the line construction there. But I thought the overall shakeup probably had the intended effect. I thought that the team looked pretty good in Carolina and very good in Nashville. And they obviously got off to a great start in Pittsburgh before things kind of fell apart there. But overall, I would say that the shaking up the forward trips the way that they did had the desired impact in terms of kind of shaking the lethargy. And now you can kind of slot in some more conventional line constructions and see if the energy is sustained, and then you just kind of get the more sensible trios there and hope that the results pan out.
Kevin Klein joining us from Japers Rink. The name of the article, On Flipping the Switch and Running Out of Time. You can head to Japers Rink to find this, or if you're following Capitals Radio on Twitter, we just tweeted that out just a few minutes ago. There's a lot in here, Kevin, on Braden Holtby that I know that JP had a hand in compiling some of this data here, but one of the big number that stood out in our conversation yesterday, and it was spurred on by a bit of audio that we played from Jamie McLennan on TSN here in Canada, basically talking about save save percentages and bigger picture. Braden in the first half of the year at 932, coming down to after the 1st of January at a pretty pedestrian 906. There are a number of reasons why that is, and they're certainly not all on Braden Holtby. But what exactly are we looking at here in the piece about some of the charts here and some of the statistical data regarding number 70?
Yeah, it's certainly been a bit of a tough go for Holtby lately, and his end of the season numbers are going to take a hit. But really, everybody's been saying it for months now. It's what matters in the playoffs. The playoffs are what matter. And Braden Holtby has generally in his career stepped up his game in the playoffs. But what you would like to see is for him to step up his game before the playoffs and then carry that play into the playoffs, not just flip the proverbial switch. And I think when you look at his numbers that he's trending in the right direction, and he is coming back to form slowly. He's not there yet. He's still got a ways to go. But if you look at his rolling 5-game percent, to say his save percentage in any given set of 5 consecutive games, his last few sets of 5 games have been a lot more reminiscent of what he was doing earlier in the season. And that's even including the pretty ugly outing in Pittsburgh, I think we can all agree. So I do think that there's evidence there that shows that he is coming along and is kind of coming back out of it. And if he can carry that into the playoffs, I think that's going to be a great sign for the team, because as Holtby go the Caps, in my opinion, he's got a great team in front of him, but he's still integral to their success, as we've seen. The other piece here that I think is going to be really important is John Carlson coming back, ostensibly getting back together with Brooks Orpik, which does 2 things. It gives you your top pair back, and it also splits up the Orlov-Orpik pair, who have been on the ice for a ton of goals, both for and against, but most recently more against. And that allows Barry Trotz to play his matchup probably better than he's been able to for several months now, given the consecutive injuries to Orpik and to John Carlson.
Kevin, the flipping of the switch, and Barry Trotz, I think, was talking about similar things today, and if not with the same terminology, but talking about preparation for the playoffs, essentially starting tonight, needing to be consistent down the stretch, something that he said as well. Is there anything that wouldn't be cured of all of the things that we talked about? And it seems like for the last few weeks, that's what we have been talking about. A lot of close games, and sometimes those things turn into coin flips, and you're going to see a lot of those in the postseason. But the Caps have been in their share a lot. If you can put together, if you're the Caps, and a good solid 3, 4, 5-game stretch of getting back to all of those things, and getting John Carlson back may very well spur it on in and of itself. But among some of the other things, a good game in Ottawa. You got New Jersey coming up. You're going to get a pretty good test with the Blues coming up here now on Saturday. You're going to be taking on a desperate Philadelphia team next week, starting off a road trip. You got Columbus coming in, which is not a team you probably want to see right now. They're out of it. They're loose. They have nothing to play for, but they're dangerous. If anywhere in that stretch that you can start picking up your socks and putting together the kind of games that we saw in November and December, is it as simple as that, and just putting together 3 or 4 games? Is that going to give everybody the sigh of relief with the playoffs around the corner?
Yeah, well, I certainly think that it's easier said than done, as I'm sure anyone who's actually responsible for creating that result would say. But yes, I think that, and this is somewhat of a controversial opinion just because it's a bit progressive, but I think that having games that are reminiscent of those early season Caps and playing a strong possession game and getting strong goaltending is more important than actually winning the games. I think that if you play 5 or 6 really strong games and you only win 3 of them, you are probably better off than if you got outplayed, scored a couple timely goals, and stole some wins, but had the kind of ugly trends that have been happening continue. I think that just getting back in that rhythm and getting Braden Holtby some confidence heading into the playoffs, and having your forward lines optimized and your defensive pairings the way that you want them to be, I think all of those things are what create the result that you want. So if they can achieve that, and then sustain it over 4 or 5 games, I think that certainly gives the team some momentum so that they can roll into the playoffs rather than stumble backwards into them. And from a perspective of the city of Washington, D.C. and its relationship with hockey, I think that maybe they can breathe a little bit easier.